What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another backyard talk. In today's video, it's basically going to be a part two of the video that I posted about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think it was like 3 weeks ago on this book by Mo Gawdat called Scary Smart. I just recently finished it and just kind of wanted to make kind of a second part to that first video and kind of address the rest of the book and then just some other thoughts behind the topic that I thought would be just worth discussing. And if you guys have any comments or additions or things that you'd like to add to this conversation, I'd love it if you hit the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. I had a bunch of people comment in that first video, and I thought it was pretty cool to kind of see the opinions of those of you who checked out the video. So thank you. But yeah, in this video and in the first part of that video one of Scary Smart, basically talked about how AI is advancing so quickly that within the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years, everything in the whole world, let alone just our country in America, is going to change. Medical is going to change, transportation is going to change, careers are going to change, um, other automation is going to change. I mean, even like having like a robot do your dishes. I mean, there's just so much that is coming down the pipeline that we don't even really know how it's going to integrate what society or what life is going to look like over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I think it's a very interesting point in history. And I actually agree with one of the guys that commented in that last video that it's probably not going to take 10, 15, or 20 years. It's probably going to be 3, 5, or 7 years. I mean, maybe 10 years, but really by 2030, I bet that what we're looking at as a culture and as a society is totally different. I mean, autonomous cars are on the way. There's so many different applications to this technology that's on the way. I just think it's very interesting. And as we get farther and farther along the kind of path of it, there's no stopping it. I guess that's one of the aspects of this book, kind of as I wrapped it up, that is pretty clear. Obviously, that AI, the people that are behind it, the technology, the money, the billionaires, the companies, the government, it's not going anywhere. So if AI is not going anywhere, then what's that next step? And Mo Gawdat in this book, in the second half of it, basically talks about how it's kind of up to all of us, right? Like if you use ChatGPT, if you use Grok, if you use some of the other AI platforms like Otter AI and some of the other things that are out there, it's basically up to us to kind of input our own kind of niceness and our own humanity into the technology and into the programming. Because right now, basically the ethics and the other aspects of humanity that the AI is learning from is combined between the collective pool of everybody using it and how everybody using it is interacting with the technology and how that technology then learns human behavior and learns human reaction and emotions. And then the other part of that is the actual programmers and the people who are actually creating the technology. Those people that are programming Grok and programming ChatGPT and the people that are at OpenAI and work with Sam Altman and Elon and stuff like that, those people are actually the ones that are literally kind of encoding their own personal ethics and kind of do's and don'ts and rights and wrongs into the AI system. And I just think it's very, very interesting. In 10 years or 15 years, are we going to have robocops? Are we going to have, robo police, robot dogs just kind of like patrolling the streets? We're already kind of seeing that recently. I don't know if you guys saw the clip, but there was like a robot dog kind of filmed like somewhere around Mar-a-Lago in Florida, at Trump's house, that was like basically on patrol as like a electronic robot security dog. So I just think that it's pretty cool technology, but it just opens up all sorts of questions about human usefulness, the job market, surveillance, government oversight, UBI. I mean, it starts to bring in so many different factors. And a quote that I actually have pulled up on my phone here that I wanted to discuss was something that popped up on my Instagram that apparently is a quote from Elon. And I don't know exactly when he said it, or I'd have to like double check, fact check kind of where it came from. But the quote that I'm looking at says, "If a computer can do everything better than you, does your life have meaning?" So I thought that was obviously a very big and kind of important question. And the answer to me is obviously yes. I think all human life has a ton of meaning. And I don't think we were put here to create robots and then to be replaced by robots. But it brings a very interesting question. When a robot is better than every single human at driving, when a robot is better at every single human at data processing and mathematics, when a computer is better at analytics and reasoning and decision making than every other human, when a computer can process the entire internet's information in milliseconds and come up with a solution to a problem that might take us potentially years to think through or figure out. It poses a very interesting question. So I really don't know what the kind of answer is going to be or what the future is going to look like. But something that Mo talked about in this book was basically this kind of projection and this kind of theory where if you were sitting with Mo, in 2055 or 2060, 30 years down the line, are we all going to be running to the hills and trying to, like, be out of technological areas and out of cities to escape, some kind of robot, I don't know, overtake of our society? Or is UBI going to kind of flow in, and are people going to, just have income just kind of deposited into their bank accounts and have robots be doing 98% or more of the work, with a few humans kind of overseeing large armies, so to speak, or large outlets of robotics teams that are doing all of these different jobs and tasks? So I just think it poses a very, very interesting question. I also think it's an interesting time for humanity. As much as I appreciate anybody who, like, watches my videos on YouTube, I love YouTube. I spend a lot of time on YouTube. I think it's super important for people to kind of start to, like, get off their phones and get off of screens and go out into nature and, meet your neighbors and actually, like, learn a little bit more of, like, kind of the old school community and, like, I guess old school interaction that I think is kind of going to the wayside. Because I think if you fast forward, I'm sure that people out there watching this have seen, like, millennials and people that are younger that have kids and that are raising, like, the iPad kid. And my wife and I actually just saw it the other day, where we were driving in the shopping center and this mom went into the store and she had two kids, and both kids had just giant iPads, and they were just going to obviously go into the nail salon or the store and just, like, scroll the whole time, right? And to me, that seems so far off from where we used to be, even like 20, 50, 20, 30, 50 years ago. Like, I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and I remember when Facebook first came out, and, like, I had a chance to do and live and have my whole childhood, so to speak, without, like, just being addicted to a screen. Like, my only screen when I was growing up was, like, when PlayStation 1 came out, and, like, the Game Boy and, like, stuff like that. And that became kind of, the start of kind of cell phone addiction and screen addiction. But I think now it's to the point where people so young, whose brains are clay putty, that have not formed at all into anything that can reason about the world or understand the world, are just sucked into these screens that are then pumping content from these algorithms and from all of this AI information out there. Like, now when you go on Facebook, you can ask the Meta assistant about anything. Like, if a post pops up and it's a house, and it literally prompts you at the bottom and asks you questions like, do you want to know the price history of this house? Do you want to know the history of this neighborhood? And you can click kind of those automated prompts, and it'll tell you all sorts of information about whatever post you're seeing. So to be just bombarded by information like that constantly, and then to not have the same kind of social interaction or skills that I think we used to, and then moving forward into the next 5, 10, 15 years of just insanely ridiculous technological advancement and the speed and rapidness of which this is going to, ramp up, I don't think a lot of people are ready for it. And I don't know what society, what life is really going to look like. People are talking about it. There's skeptics and kind of people on both sides, where AI is going to create a utopia and everybody's going to be happy, and your purpose in life isn't connected to your work, and people will start enjoying nature and get connected again. But then the other side of that coin is the opposite, right? Where robots are doing everything, people forget the ability to communicate and interact, and the level of empathy and compassion that humans used to have starts to shrink, and people become colder, and there's less social interaction. And it's just very interesting, I think, the precipice of where we're headed. And I think, again, back to kind of Mo in this book, it all kind of comes down to how we all use AI, how we all input our own interactions and emotions, and how we interact with other humans into AI. Because at the end of the day, these bots and these programs are all learning from us. So if we are teaching it, hatred, then it's going to learn hatred from us and how we hate. If we teach it love or kindness, or teach it to, try to solve certain problems in a certain way, then it's going to tweak all of those things in those ways as well. And it's just going to do it faster and better than any human ever could. So I'm super interested to see what's going to happen over the next few years. NVIDIA and the data centers that are being built in Ohio and in other states. I know, I think there's one in Kentucky as well. I could be wrong, but I know they're building a bunch of data centers in, like, southern Ohio, and it's really just starting to expand. So what is all of that, right? Like, why do we need thousands and thousands of new data centers? Why are they building these gigantic, gigantic new structures? I think another one was outside of Memphis, actually, that Elon's building. So the reason is because it needs to be stored somewhere, right? We are feeding it all of that data. It's learning all of that information. It's going to start running our whole world. The computers and the bots are basically, and the AI is going to start running our entire economy for the most part. If not, it already probably has basically transitioned to that point. And it's just a very interesting time. So I'm still overall a big fan of AI. I think I think obviously it's inevitable, just like Mo talked about. It's been kind of talked about. It's been in the works for 50 plus years. So there's no reason for us to think that we're not going to have to deal with it. We're not going to have to figure out how to live with it. We're not going to have to figure out how to teach future generations how to live with it and interact with it. But it is going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few years, over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years, regarding this transition. I don't think humans have ever gone through in history a technological advancement period of rapid change like we've already gone through and that we are in the middle of so quickly. I mean, to experience 100 or 200 years of tech advancement in 5 or 10 years is unheard of. You know, my great grandma, your great grandma was just happy to eventually have a washing machine, right? And like now that's gonna, we're so far past those days of just like modern conveniences and appliances and stuff for the house. We're so far past that. That it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I personally don't think that Uber drivers are going to be around for much longer. I probably give it 3 or 5 years before most taxi services or all taxi services or those Waymos or the autonomous robo taxis from Tesla or something like that. Elon just launched that in Austin, where a robo taxi is $4.20 for a round trip or something like that. And then the first Tesla just auto delivered itself as well, and that's going to be coming out in a future software update. So really, it's just very very interesting. So um, that's about all I have for this video. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and comments. And really let me know in the comments again what you guys think. Is this going to be something immensely positive? Are we all just going to somehow have production and productivity in the economy and GDP skyrocket because robots are doing every single job? And are we all just going to get some type of UBI based on what we were doing previously in our careers and then just expected to live some happy, fulfilled life? Or on the other side, is it going to cause a lot of problems that maybe I'm not even thinking of or that we haven't even talked about in this video or wasn't mentioned in this book or other books? Or what's most likely probably going to happen is somewhere in the middle. There are going to be really positive aspects of AI that are really positive for society, and then other aspects that are probably pretty negative for society. And I think it's going to be a balance. So thank you for checking out this video. And yeah, hit the comments with your thoughts. And until next time, peace.